Okay, everyone, let's start this very interesting Twitter Spaces event with Brine Finance and Shaaran from the team. So, Ayushman from our community team will do the initial introductions and the briefing around the how will the conversation unfold. So, welcome Shaaran, welcome Brine team, Brine Finance team. Ayushman, take the stage, please.
Sure thing. So, hello everyone. We have today with us Shaaran. Shaaran is from Brine Finance, and they are a trustless, gasless, fast, and low-fee order book cross-chain exchange, right? And we at Hashtag are building a permissionless, under-collateralized lending solution for crypto retail, where you can get up to 3x loan on your collateral, and we don't check any credit scores. On the moderation part, I am Ayushman here, the community intern, and we have Aris, who's the DevRel of Hashtag. Without further ado, let's begin.
All right. So, Shaaran, welcome. By the way, it's Brine or Brine?
It can be anyway, but we prefer Brine. Yeah.
All right. So I did a mistake. Brine. So welcome, Shaaran. It's a real pleasure to have you here with us, guys. If you want to say hello to the audience, now it's the time to do that.
Of course. I mean, big hi to all the audience here, and thank you so much for taking out your time and joining us on this call.
It's our pleasure, and definitely a very interesting one, since, let's be honest, trading is one of the most fascinating and interesting areas in crypto. So I'm pretty sure it will be a very fun conversation. Okay, so let's begin with a brief introduction around you, of course, and the team. If you want to share backgrounds, experience in crypto, trading, whatever you think it's relevant.
For sure. Yeah. Firstly, about myself, I'm Shaaran, the Chief Executive Officer at Brine, and also one of the founders here. So my background basically comes from, I have very, very humble backgrounds. I started coding at the age of 6, and ever since then I've been building. Got into the software consulting side quite early in my life when I was 12 or 13 years, and then started consulting some of the large-scale MNCs, including Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and many, many other legendary companies that's out there. And I think it was only around 2013 or 2014 when I came across Bitcoin, because I was essentially working on a security-based project, and I was just looking for some out-of-the-box ideas, and that's when Bitcoin especially caught my eyes, and that's when I started building in this ecosystem as a whole. I've contributed to multiple Ethereum and Stellar-based projects throughout my life, and some of the code which I have written has currently been used by over millions of developers out there, and especially my skill lies in structuring trading engines and order matching engines, as I've been building this for quite a very long span of my life, maybe 4-5 years or even much more. So that's basically where my strength comes in. And for my teammates, there are a few even listening in this call. We have one of the best legal attorney in the world who headed one of the world's largest multi-billion dollar company. He was the chief legal officer and head of general counsel there, who is with us. And we also have designers from Google and many other engineers from various places like Harvard, MIT, and Indian universities like IIT, VIT, so many other folks. So we are like a team of pretty young and pretty experienced people, I must say, and we also have very great set of investors and advisors as well, which we will be putting up in the next maybe few weeks. we'll be tweeting about that. But for now, that's a little bit about the team in general and what we are after.
Wow, that's what I call a very impressive start. So uh, if I understood correctly, you started coding uh, on your sixth
Yeah, I mean,
birthday.
I would give the credits to my dad. It's because of him I started coding.
Wow, that's a definition of early adoption in crypto, but also in programming. Well done, mate. Well done. So, okay. So, Brine has a very robust team. I think this has been obvious to everyone by now. All right. Now, diving a bit to the product or the project itself, help us to understand better the genesis timestamp of Brine, and also if while you were conceiving the idea, is it about a solution looking for a problem, or it was an idea tapping into a business opportunity?
Got it. That's a really great question. So just to start from the beginning, I'm also the founder of one of the largest crypto exchange in India, serving over 1 million users today. And we have processed several hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions. And one of the greatest issue that we had while scaling the platform was the problem of constant changes in the regulation of crypto assets. And this is because of which we were not able to, ship or deliver many services which we wanted to very seamlessly. For example, withdrawals, especially crypto withdrawals, are huge problem per se in India. And that's because of many of the AML and KYC and a lot of laws that's there. And apart from that, there is also the the entire like TDS, the taxing on crypto, and so many other things. Because of which, every time you buy an asset, especially in India, it's not exactly the price that you're buying it for. You might probably buy it at a 1% loss whenever you buy it, and this is because there is a taxation of 1% on every time someone sells you the asset. So basically, the market makers on an exchange. So ideally, many people might be thinking that it's actually all the orders which you're seeing in any exchange is coming organically through the other traders in the market. But to be very honest, it's not the case. It's actually coming from market makers who are essentially due to a lot of factors, they are making the markets and the price change according to it. Now, the biggest problem with these market makers is that they, in case if every time they sell, they have to sell at a 1% loss, they are surely not going to give you the best price. So they're possibly giving you a price which is 1%, maybe lesser than what's the actual market standard. So wherever you buy, you basically buy at a 1% loss. Because of which there are many such problems with, running a centralized exchange, even though it was a very scalable exchange. And thus, to ensure that our passion and goals are unchanged, we started building Brine with the idea of providing a centralized exchange-like experience in a DEX. And to be very crisp and straight to the point, we are building Brine to especially cater for the high-frequency traders, professional traders, and institutions with high TPS needs. As one thing that we have actually observed today is that from the success of our testnet and many other things, we are sure that our protocol and the way how we function is hyper scalable. We can scale, and we have also literally shown to the people that we have a capability to handle thousands of transactions every second at least. And most importantly, we also focus on transaction repeatability. And to many of these institutions, high frequency traders, and many of the professional traders, the most important factor is transaction repeatability. And what is it? So transaction repeatability basically says that in case if you place 100 orders continuously, out of the 100 orders, does all the 100 orders first get executed? There is no failures or something. Second, follows similar timeline for execution. So let's say you put one order and that gets executed in maybe 13 milliseconds. And you put another order, it gets executed in 5 seconds. It really doesn't make sense because traders exactly need to know how much time does it take for my order to get executed, because it's a very, very important metric for high frequency traders. And the third is the pricing. Am I able to get better pricing, and am I able to get the promised pricing? So this is majorly what we are solving for and what we are majorly after.
Okay, things are not very prominent regarding crypto in India yet. All right, and there
some pretty good thing there, but yeah, sure, it's quite it.
All right. So if we can maybe summarize that in a single sentence, you're basically providing centralized exchange efficiency and usability in the DeFi sector, in a DEX.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Great.
That's the spirit.
Nice. And as an extension to this question, let's stay a little bit more on that. So, what are the unique features of Brine as compared to other major market players in your segment?
So when it comes to the differences, one thing is, as I mentioned previously, the thing is not about doing differently, but doing what needs to be done perfect. And perfection is all that we care about. And as also mentioned earlier, since our focus is naturally on the pro traders and institutions, when we make something robust enough for the enterprise side, the platform automatically becomes a super safe option for the retail traders as well. So because of that, you can say that, one thing is, we provide this transaction repeatability, which is a very important thing. Secondly, we provide you super high SLAs because we are blockchain, we put in a simpler word. And then we also give you better rates than what you might be seeing elsewhere, because you're not essentially paying for gas. And apart from that, there is no more LP fees or something of that sort. So you can say, it's pretty useful. And also coming to the other question that you mentioned, why are we better compared to any other people in this market or something like that? The main reason is because today, the ideal trading platform for DeFi trading, for derivatives and perps, for majority of the mainstream traders is, to be honest, through DYDX.
Agree.
Talking about the mainstream traders. And of course, GMX is also rising now. And if we see the same thing on the spot trading side, there are players like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, and so who, just top the charts. And to be very honest with you, less than 3% of the DeFi trading spot volume today, or even much lesser, is done through order book trading exchanges, especially the decentralized exchanges part. And if we dig a little bit deeper and we see what is the reason for this, it is because many times the liquidity in many of these exchanges are super low. And the only people who really care if your exchange is an order book exchange or not is only the mainstream traders. To be very honest, me, who is a normal consumer, I'm not usually trading to, very much trade. I'm just buying assets so that, and I'm holding it to eternity. So I'm just, using it as a hedge against dollars or doing something with that. So for these people, order book doesn't really matter. It's only the professions for whom it really matters, to be very honest and straightforward. And when we are building this order book for these mainstream traders, the reason why we're building it only for them, the bigger problem that many of the other exchanges do is that they don't really solve the trilemma. And the trilemma is essentially that these people expect transactions per second to be very high. they want anonymity to be there because institutions don't want their trades to be copied. The third part is basically the transaction repeatability. And in many of the exchanges that is there today, you can probably see two of this together. There may be a very high TPS and the exchange can give you pretty good repeatability, but you won't be getting anonymity, or maybe it's not decentralized at all. And there might be some cases where you can find anonymity and repeatability, but the transactions per second is not there. So that is majorly, the perfection that I was talking at the start of answering this question. And that's majorly what we are after. We are after these larger trading volumes so that tomorrow we want to, become probably something like the Binance of the entire decentralized trading. Because this is exactly even how Binance started out when they started out as a spot exchange for centralized exchange.
That's a bold statement, but I really wholeheartedly wish you to reach to that levels. And from what you said, you are obviously have the fundamentals. I mean, team-wise, to do that. Okay, so and because you referred to a number that around 3% of traders are interested or are using order books. You obviously have done some your studies around that, but I think this is very handy, and it has been an ask for a long time because more and more people, even the average retail traders, folk are starting to switching to order book trading due to they prefer more and more the swing trading. So they have they try to spot the liquidity levels. So I think that this percentage will go high as time goes by. All right, and you broke your product in two. So it's the institutional one and the retailers one. So if you were to personify your average client or user in both cases, can you extract some average characteristics on each case?
In the institution side, it is going to be very simple. Institution who does maybe less than who needs very high number of transactions to be done every second. To be even more concise, let me even take you to another story. There are centralized exchanges in the world. However, even though their name says exchange, they are not exchange. They are nothing but they're just brokers who are basically a middleman between an actual exchange and the people. So what they ideally do is whenever you send an order to this exchange, they take the order and they broadcast it to another exchange, and then they execute the order through that. And then they get some good pricing because, the fees since they trade very high because they are just broadcasting your order would naturally be very, very less. So in case if you directly trade on the XYZ exchange, the main exchange, you won't get that trading fee. And apart from that, there might be many, many other things to it. So because of this intermediary exchange does basically trades on the other exchange, and that's basically how usually exchanges go. One big trouble today, to be very honest, with all of these middlemen exchanges is that these people have to basically trust their main exchange a lot because all their funds are being custodied in the main exchange. So in case of the main exchange falls down, this person who is sending the orders and giving it to a customer will also naturally fall. And this was the bigger problem of the FTX crisis, where many of these these kind of middle exchanges got affected really, really much because they actually had their funds sitting in FTX and many, many other similar such exchange venues. where like they didn't have any like where they were having liquidity, and this intermediary exchanges didn't have that much liquidity. So this was the bigger problem. And now all of these people who were the intermediary exchanges are now super scared because they exactly don't know which centralized exchange or actual exchange to go and park their monies in. So many of these, like middlemen exchanges are now coming and onboarding Guy, because one thing we provide them, we provide them to keep an opportunity to keep all of their funds on chain under their control. Second, we provide them the TPS and the liquidity they need. And we also provide the repeatability, which is very important for these exchanges as well. So this and professional traders, high frequency traders are some of our average user when it comes to Brine. And that is basically whom we are building the product for. But our product can be actually used by anybody, because it's like we are preparing for the worst. So even the normal or the good times are also manageable. So that's basically a bit of an analogy on the institution side. And coming on to the general public side, the retail segment, I think it can literally be anybody who comes and trades, because as I mentioned, the platform is robust enough for the enterprise side. So it naturally becomes robust enough for every other retail player that is out there. So that's a little bit analogy.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting, I want to point out something, is that with every answer you give, 3 or more questions, jump into my head. And we might need a different Twitter Spaces for every answer you give. That's awesome. But to get a better clarity, as a simple answer, could you give us some average numbers? I mean, how much your average institutional client trades, and how much do you estimate your average retailer? Just to have a glimpse.
Yeah, on the institution side, one major thing that we usually see is they trade somewhere around $60,000 to $70,000 per trade, and even at the institution side, it actually bifurcates a lot. So because there is so many different types of institutions in the CEX platforms kind of institution, the average trades can be as small as maybe $10,000 or something. And in the basket application, the basket tooling systems and other things, it can be maybe usually it's around $3,000 to $4,000 per trade. And then coming to the high frequency traders and institution angle, it's again somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000 per trade. And on the numbers of transactions that these people send, so let me categorize that not as TPS, but as OPS, which is basically orders per second. And the orders per second is essentially very, very important. So in case of like these CFI, CDFI applications, there is a 1:1 conversion of orders to trades. So usually their TPS is the same as OPS. And this OPS and TPS might somewhere be between, maybe you can say max to max, peaks time, 300, 400 transactions, especially the CDFI applications. And then going on to, and again, TPS is same as OPS in these cases. The next one for these basket applications, they have a very seasonal pattern. You can see that every month starting or every month mid, there will be a bunch of transactions coming in. So there might be millions of transactions coming in at one time, which we would need to serialize and we would need to, execute in the best possible manner. And they come maybe once in a month or probably twice in a month or something like that. That's how these basket applications function. The third one, the high frequency traders especially, it's more like they put 10,000, 20,000 orders a second. But max to max, the number of trades per second would just be maybe 5 trades per second, 10 trades per second, max to max, I'm saying. would be something like that. Because these people just try to put as many number of trades inside the machine and just wait for at least one of them to get executed. But usually since their spreads are, it's basically done, high-frequency trading is done for like 1 bip, basically 0.01%, 0.02% profits. So you can say that, they because of this, the conversion ratios are pretty less. This is one way, and a regular trader is a pretty different set altogether. So when it comes to retail traders, then we start talking on trades per day. So now the trades per day for an average trader would somewhere be between 20 to 30 trades, which is the daily trading volume if you take out on an average.
Understood. All right. Now, my next point is one of the most hot topics through the years when anyone was engaging in DeFi, and especially trade. So this has to do with the gas. Okay, so we could see transactions, in the past, transactions that were about, let's say, $500, and they would pay $200 in gas fees for Ethereum, and even more from the actual transaction. So this has been a very critical blocker, which fortunately is being tackled with the layer 2 era, and especially with approaches like Starknet and roll-ups in general. So you say that you are providing gasless transactions. So you remove this burden from the user, and you just charge them with a fixed fee of, if I'm not wrong, 0.1%, correct?
0.1% or lesser. So in some cases, you can trade with 0.0.
Oh, all right. So, but you're operating on the DeFi sector, so there is gas fee. You are taking this off. So,
yes,
help us here understand, who bears the cost? Is it the protocol? The user is not. Okay, we say it's gasless for the user. So it has to be you. So the protocol. In this case, how does this look in the sense of the economies of scale perspective? As you know, the error margin between the cost variation of the network token for gas and the denomination in which it is paid to the protocol will increase manifold, multiple times. So can you help us understand how this can work?
Of course. So when it comes to how all of these platforms, including us, who claim to be gasless, who are actually taking this charge, who's paid for the gas at the end of the day, because Ethereum needs gas to function. How it usually happens is, as you rightly pointed out, it's called a roll-up. A roll-up is essentially batching hundreds of thousands of transactions into one, and then updating the L1 saying that these transactions happened. And when you do hundreds of thousands of transactions and then just go and update it in one transaction, so that one transaction update in L1 might cost you max to max how much? Maybe $10, $20, but you are actually paying that $20 for hundreds of thousands of transactions. So because of this, the per transaction cost is extremely low, that it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. So, and that's basically how we are able to provide gasless service, to scope out and see who is really taking this gas fee and who is actually paying for gas fees. It's the protocol. It's basically, if it's Brine who is paying for the gas fees. But because of batching these transactions, by doing this 100,000 trades, we are able to actually make more money than $20. So because of that, the $20 paying for this 100,000 transactions really isn't a problem. And that's where also many of the roll-ups differ. Say if it's an optimistic roll-up, then that's why I'm just batching and then telling to the L1 that, hey, these transactions happen. On ZK, the number of transactions that you can verify becomes superbly easy because in ZK especially, it is super hard to generate a transaction. It's super hard to generate a proof. You need supercomputers and all of those things to generate a proof. However, to verify the proof, it's super simple. You can literally run it on a Raspberry Pi or literally in your Nokia, like the oldest of the Nokia phones, it might take you literally seconds in time to verify. And because of that, the verification charges for doing this is very constant. It might probably be 80,000, 90,000 gas, which is pretty bearable at the end of the day for protocols to come and take that transaction fee. And I mean, at the end of the day, we are able to provide and scale the overall L1. And because of the ZK, verification becomes very simpler, so we can batch more number of transactions in a batch rather than compared to optimistic rollups.
Since you mentioned optimistic rollup, I think it would be kind of more, pain point, since they check the validity after. I mean, if the transaction is scammy, they revert it. So this could be a problem in your case. I don't know. So you rely on the ZK rollups, a way of functioning to tackle that. Have you seen any major fluctuations in the charging of these fees in the time period you've been operating?
No. Usually no. The charges will always be constant because unlike, of course, I mean, the Ethereum that it costs might be the same, but the price of an Ethereum will continuously keep changing. And the gas fees will also change because, there is a coefficient of saying that this much amount of compute takes this much amount of fee, which becomes variable. So maybe today we pay $10, tomorrow we might even pay $50, $80 in case the traffic is too high on the network, and it goes. But it still doesn't really become a big problem for us even then, because with the 100,000 transactions, we'd have made even much more money than the 80 or even $200 for say, which could be the maximum that we can pay for that one transaction, which we hope would be the case from all the historical gas fee prices and everything. So that's majorly it. So I don't really think that would be a major problem. And of course, I mean, the only reason why ZK rollouts are taking more time to develop, come there, is mainly because ZK actually needs a lot of understanding of quant and mathematics. So which is why, and for many of us, it just goes over the head. Even for me, for a long time, it was like that. And slowly after that, I started understanding a few pieces of it, and then I'm here today. So I think it will take a little bit more time than understanding an optimistic rollup. But yeah, of course, we are there. The time is not far away.
All right. So, second very interesting point that catches a user's eye when it says Brine, you are kind of committing to be able to achieve 600,000 TPS transactions per second. Okay, that's a huge number.
Very much.
So I guess you rely again on the batching in the ZK rollups. So you will answer me to that. So are there any risks carried by you since you are committing to this number? And also, on a second note, if you could distinguish some, if any, risks that are levied onto the user's side while they are trading on your DEX?
Perfect. Yeah. So one of the greatest struggles with reaching super high transactions per second is to do with the problem of maintaining persistence. And let me clarify this a little bit more. Ideally, whenever a trade or an order happens, it is very important that this information is stored somewhere super safe. And for storing this somewhere, usually what we use are something called as databases. And this is where we usually store. And the reason why it is very, very important to store this information is, for example, I'm not sure, maybe like a day or two before, Binance actually went down for 4 hours, saying that some transaction had a problem and they had to shut their machines down. And because of that one order, every order went into havoc. And we had a delay of 4 hours from an exchange like Binance. And that would have resulted in millions and millions of dollars in losses. So one of the biggest reason why it is, again, very important to store is majorly because, let's say, like suddenly the system shuts down, or there is something that happens in the system because of which it is not able to respond. All the transactions that happened in the past 10 seconds or in that moment will not be noted anywhere. So all these trades might have been like they didn't happen at all. And that means there will be, again, so many millions of dollars in losses because of that. And thus it is very, very important that we store all the information in high performant databases and high secure persistent databases. But the big challenge with storing in databases is that it only allows you to write, maybe 100 times or something like that every second. So how do we go about writing 600,000 times if our database only allows us to write only 100 things per second? And this is where we use multiple different techniques. We use things like chronicle wires, and we use Radix trees, and so many, and then we do sharding and many different kinds of things. I'm not sure if I'm going to explain each and every single thing in our data structure. This call might be enough. So what we will do is we have our technical documentation where people can read a little bit more about how and what magic goes behind the thing, to which we actually reach very high transactions or orders per second. Now, because of doing all of these things, and because we use many of these messaging queues and all of those many other scientific terminologies out there, we are able to reach 600,000 TPS. However, this is not on-chain. Again, being very straightforward and blunt there, this is not on-chain. And the reason why this is not on-chain is because the entire beauty of zero knowledge proofs is because one day, because you can verify something on-chain having that made through off-chain. So with off-chain, we are hitting this amount of peak, and whenever you send more and more transactions, we actually make your trades and then submit it to the zero knowledge proof saying that, hey, indeed these transactions happened, and we batch it and then send it once, and we say, please verify if these transactions came from the actual user, and in case if the prices are what the user asked us to put it up, and this is the time at which the user wanted his order to be executed. So everything is basically signed by the user at the end of the day, and then it is basically provided that to us, and then we do the matching, and then we finally submit it to the Ethereum or whatever is the layer. We just send it over there and everything gets executed, and then you can see on chain that these many changes occurred. So because of this, there is usually not the major risks are averted, because at the end of the day, The security of Brine is essentially the security of Ethereum in itself. So that's basically takes out a lot of risks associated with it. And to be honest, 2-3 months back, we had like not even 2-3 months, I think 4-5 months back, we had one risk that we found out, which is basically it was a not a pretty like mid-tier minor risk section where in case if you sign and give us a transaction, it was actually like taking for up to 3 seconds or 4 seconds, the price at which you submit the transaction to us remains the same. So maybe after 3 seconds, in case of the price of the coin depreciated, then you may still have to believe in us or trust us that we're giving you the best rates. But the idea of building this platform is to build a purely trustless solution. So we later worked towards it, and we then made it in a fraction of milliseconds this time. And now we've even solved that. And we've also been audited by many of the large-scale teams like Pet Shield and other people that our contracts are super safe. And in fact, like even DYDX and a few other companies are also like using similar contracts. And these have also been written and also, again, vetted by the Starkware team themselves.
Interesting. And you gave me the best possible bridge to hook up my next topic, which is price feeds, data feeds. So your price feeds must be updated real time to truly reflect the trades executed. All right.
Yeah.
So in DeFi, we can safely assume that the Oracle prices aren't updated in real time, or even if they do, it's not maybe sustainable, maybe cost-wise. Okay, so how are you navigating through the requirement of real-time, reliable price feeds?
So again, that's where ZK comes and saves the day once again, is because one thing about ZK, again, I'm telling, is that you can do things off-chain and then later prove that it was done following these metrics on-chain. For example, in case if what you need to prove is essentially that a ball is maybe a person paid 10 rupees or probably $10 or something to a vendor. In ZK, like you don't really need a surveillance cameras and all of those things. But what you do is you just check if there is this a number on every note that is issued by the Federal Reserve. So you just need to check in the shopkeeper's shop, or there's like whatever it is, the bill, the cashier or something, the place, if it has that specific note's number. And that's majorly what it is at the end of the day. So that's also like what ZK does. It doesn't really need these kind of video and all of these evidences to really prove something. But rather, all I need to say is that I have a real-time like price oracle, which is running off-chain, because that is also being used by Binance and so many other players across the globe. And what happens truly here is that I'm just making sure and that I'm meeting the same price and the same timeline that you requested me the order to be executed in. So when we solve for both of these problems, the problem of Oracle prices also diminishes in a long way. And I think this might answer your question in a long day.
Yes, but I think maybe we can clarify just a bit. I know you are elaborating greatly, and we can talk for hours. But let's keep it. Yeah, definitely. Let's keep it short and crisp. So, if I understood correctly, you have built or you are using an Oracle you can refer to, or you don't mind. Which one is that? And you have your price feeds off chain, and you implement them on chain when a transaction is being submitted, and you are kind of requesting your user to trust you on this whole process?
Actually, there is no trust that is needed there because, let's say, for instance, you need price oracles to be very much there in AMM because you need to ensure that the price at which you executed your order at is very similar to the price that is presently ongoing in the market. But
So you are using price oracles. I mean, at least one or two of the major ones, which we can refer to if you want. You are using them.
so Chainlink and all of these people, you being basically refer on chain. But the thing is that since when it comes to Brine, since you essentially tell us that, hey Brine, find me someone who can trade with me at this specific price. So maybe $27,000 a Bitcoin in less than 50 milliseconds is what you're basically telling us. And what Brine is doing, unlike in AMM, which basically goes to the pool and creates the swap and then provides it to you, over there a price oracle is very important. And the reason is because over there, in case if there is any kind of slippage or something that happens, there is a chance that maybe the thing in which you're trading is not exactly very liquid, and there is an actual need of price oracles there. But on this side of the exchange, since you're telling exactly what is the timeline in which you want this order to be executed, and also the price at which you want the orders to be executed, it becomes very, very seamless for you as a person who trades, and a platform, us, who is mediating the trade, and also the second party who is getting onboarded or getting your trade executed. They exactly know what is the need, the timelines and everything. So they immediately, if they're able to get the trade executed, they execute it. Otherwise, it goes to someone else. So at the end of the day, it's you who is quoting these prices. And let's say, if Brine was to give you a different price, then what is the present market price? Even in that case, it won't happen because, let's say if we were going to price you $50,000 a Bitcoin instead of $27,000, then you're not going to accept that. You're going to say, no, I'm not going to take that. Because you have literally told us and you've signed the transaction that you will only take $27,000 a Bitcoin. And if it goes anything above that, then Brine, anybody cannot do that transaction for you. And similar is the case, let's say if we do it after a second or after 2 seconds, again, your order will fail because you told me that the $27,000 price becomes valid or is valid only for 30 milliseconds. And anything more than that, you're not going to take it. So because of that, we use oracles, especially time and other things, to ensure that the time feed that we are matching the order is exactly the same as what timeline that you are wanting.
Understood. All right. Some key points around your security processes that you are implementing. If there are any single points of failure, and also how are you navigating through compliance?
So on the security management, key management, and other things, we always follow the enterprise standards. We've been audited, again vetted by Starkware themselves, and there have been multiple occasions where the contracts have been duly and heavily tested in every single possible way. So from our perspective, the risks are not majorly platform risks, to be specific, but the risk of trading in general. There is always risks of an asset depegging, and there is also risks with trading specific assets. Like for example, let's say if you trade Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin and Ethereum is nothing but wrapped Bitcoin. So a wrapped Bitcoin has a probability to not exactly be the same value as an actual Bitcoin, so the way how it functions. So because of that, and there can also be places, or there can also be chances where, like let's say, there is some kind of like, in case if suddenly Brine stops processing your transaction, then we have a data availability committee. And this data availability committee will always ensure that the transactions are executed. So there are people like Nethermind, Infura, and so many other leading players who are running these data availability committees for us. So even in case if tomorrow Brine just goes down, these people will still keep running it. And towards the next maybe few months, we are trying to make this thing more decentralized, where every individual can actually run the engine which Brine is running. And it can be more of a completely decentralized way of order matching by in itself. And we'll be releasing it in the next maybe few months or something. But for now, we have all of these other industry players who are also ensuring that the data availability is always there, because things are maintained off-chain. So data availability becomes a very, very important part of it. And this is how we give second guarantee, third guarantee, fourth guarantee, and 10th guarantee. So these are some ways how we are mitigating risks as a platform. But the underlying risk of holding any crypto and the underlying risks of Ethereum in itself will always be a key part to running any exchange or any protocol at all in the blockchain oriented side.
Great. All right. I saw recently on your Twitter that you reached 100,000 waitlist registration. So well done to that. Congratulations. That's a big number, a huge number. So yeah, I'm interested to know, how did you get there, your secret behind that? And also, since this is tied obviously with your community, so elaborate a bit on how big is your community, how do you incentivize them to engage, and if you can share some mechanisms planned for your community in the near future.
For sure. So first thing, on the 100,000 rate list, I think it wouldn't be possible if the community was supporting us enough. I think one of the major reasons why we came to that place has to do with people whom I already know in the sphere. Many of them were influencers themselves. So who actually started putting out some tweets and other things, because of which there was some there was some kind of direct onboarding over there. And apart from that, I think Crew3 played a very important role as well. So when we actually launched it, very in the very early days of Crew3 coming in. So we actually naturally had a lot of people coming and using it, because I think back then there were literally just 5-10 platforms entirely in Crew3, whereas today I think there's 3,000, 5,000 projects that are listed in Crew3 today. So I think that also played a very, very important role. And apart from that, we also had many of these giveaways and other things which we did community-wide, for which we are distributing the rewards shortly, with our mainnet coming up pretty soon. And apart from that, there were also many of these institutional onboardings that we did, and many of these people, they want to test the platform. So many times what happens is they create multiple accounts so that they can actually have way higher rate throttle. They can reduce rate throttling to a lot because of doing that. And presently, since sub accounts is not a part of Brine, we actually had a lot of wallet addresses and other things getting in, interacting through that as well. And apart from that, we've also received interest from my previous users. So with respect to the other Indian crypto exchange, there are many users, even though we haven't did any kind of marketing around that side, they still were, pretty, they were pretty interested in that, in the way that Indian exchange is coming and launching a decentralized exchange. So there was a lot of support from there as well. And since, we have over 1 million users in the other exchange, like many of them organically also came and just had a look at what we're doing here. And some of them also registered through that. And we also have our email referral program, where in case if you refer someone, you basically get points for it, which can actually give you early mainnet access. And early mainnet access means a lot of benefits. And that was also one of the other reasons why we were able to reach this number faster. And I think these are some few masala to how we came here.
If you can pinpoint 2 or 3 incentives for the people who are engaging first in mainnet?
I think we would have a lot of, so we call it something called as the salt points. And the salt points are essentially something that translates to how much of interactive you are within the community, which is something that we will be also putting out at the time of the mainnet. And this will largely depend on how much engagement has a user shown throughout multiple social media and multiple channels, or maybe the testnet and other places. So the score comes in there. And the more and more you start trading, the more and more you do deposits, withdrawals, this point will actually, but that doesn't mean that you can spam the network and all of those things. Of course, we have metrics in place to ensure that that kind of behavior doesn't happen. So you basically get salt points for that. And maybe in the off chance we release a token in the future, this salt will have a great impact on that, because of course it is in the very ethos of projects that you support the early users or the early people who have helped you come this far. So I think that would have to be one of the biggest incentives. And apart from that, there will also be we also have this lucky draw kind of a thing, which would come for which you can actually purchase with your salt points. So you can use your salt points and you can buy these tickets. And these tickets can be used to maybe spin a wheel and do all of those things, with which you can either win something or win nothing. So that's very straightforward there. But if you win something, you always win a pretty good chunk of some tokens out there, which we associate with, or if we are add dropping something. And then we also have trading fee rebates. So let's say in case if you're an early user, in case if you invite someone to the platform, and in case if they start trading, you will get even half or 75% of the trading fees. And this is only if you are early in the game. The more mature the platform becomes, these fees will be reduced for the others, but not for the early people who are coming inside the platform, because that isn't very, very fair, because coming early means some amount of incentive. And additionally, there are some more incentives that we have planned, and we would like to keep that surprise for the entire community. So
Of course.
Also that, yeah.
Of course. Great. We are very tight on time, but I think we can have a last elaboration around your immediate milestones. So in the not so far future from now. And if there is something we can do to help you, since we like a lot what Brine is doing.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I think partnerships is always something that we're always looking for. So in case even in case the money market protocol and the lending that you're doing, we can route some of the transactions to us, and that can be your source of liquidity, and we would really love that in case if that is possible.
Definitely.
Apart from that, I think with terms of milestones, it's majorly to do with onboarding more number of institutions into the platform, and our North Star metric, which is basically the metric that we care about the most, which is basically the trading volume of the platform, becomes extremely high, because the more trading volume that we do basically means the more transaction fees overall, and the more capacity for us to give back to our users, because we are also doing rebates, which means we are just giving back whatever fees that we generate to the overall community. And so that's majorly how it basically goes up. And milestones are essentially, for now, I think for this quarter, it's to get at least 100 institution signups. It's our internal milestone. And the next one is to go mainnet for the public. So presently we're only up for the institutions, but we are planning to open it out for the other retail investors as well, which is very important from our perspective. After that, I think it will be more about like increasing this volume. So we're aiming maybe $5 to $10 million trading volume a day just for the starting quarter, and then increase it then on and then. So yeah, I mean, that's majorly a few milestones. We try to keep our milestones achievable, and we always walk backwards to the milestone.
Awesome. So Ayushwan, can you do a brief recap summary of this very, very interesting Twitter Spaces with Brine, please?
Yeah, sure thing. Hello again, everyone. In case you've joined in late or missed a couple of parts, here's what we discussed. So I'll just sum up in a quick 2 to 3 minute summary, right? So we have Shaaran, one of the founders of Brine, with us. And one of the most unique thing which I found is he started to code at the age of 6, right? And then in 2013, he got introduced to Bitcoin. And his main skills is in the region of structuring trading engines and order managing engines. So yeah, he's creating a trading platform as well in India. And one of the reasons why Brine came into the picture is because with respect to trading, especially in India, there is a lot of changes in regulations and not being able to deliver a seamless experience with respect to KYC laws and taxes. And the next thing we talked about is that Brine mainly focuses on high frequency traders and institutions. And we also got to know about transactions, repeatability, and how we also use order per second as one of the filter to identify a good DEX, right? And an order book. And apart from that, we also learned about how, Brine is gasless. And why is it so? Is because of the usage of rollups, which is ZK rollups. So right now, in case, one transaction takes you, let's say $5 to $10 on gas fees when it's hiked up, right? On Ethereum especially. So the same would take for, let's say, thousands of transactions on a rollup. And that's what subsidizes and makes Brine gasless. Apart from that, we learned that the contracts have been quality assured and have been tested a lot of times. And the risks wouldn't majorly be platform risks, but maybe third-party risks and all. And Shaaran said that, they're trying to make in the near future Brine more decentralized, and that any individual would be able to run Brine's engines. And then we last but not the least, we also learned about salt points, which is basically how much interactive you've been through social media and testnet. And these salt points may have a great reward system if Brine releases their token. And there are a couple of more incentives which are surprises right now. And the next thing which they are looking to is having 100 institution signups for Brine, and also opening it to retail investors and going mainnet this year. Yeah, so that is pretty much the summary. I hope I summed it up well with correct facts and figures. Yeah, and apart from that, do check out the Galaxy OET, which we have for you for tuning into the spaces. Any closing words, Aris, Shaaran?
Just want to mention, sorry, Shaaran, just want to mention, if you are interested in Brine, don't to follow their website at brine.finance, and also their Twitter at Brine Finance, one word. And also, you can check on what we are building at #.finance, and of course, our Twitter is at 0x hashtag. Brine, team, and Shaaran, it was a real pleasure to hosting you today. We learned a lot of interesting things. We are definitely be close to you and figure out a way of collaborating and integrating. So feel free, Shaaran, to throw some last words here.
Of course, thank you so much, everybody, for staying up. And I think it was a pretty long space too. So I hope it was pretty interesting and not very boring. I tried to be as non-boring as possible. So yeah, thank you so much again for listening, and thank you, Aris. Moderating was just phenomenal, and
yeah, thank you. So bye everyone. We will see you tomorrow where we are having another interesting Twitter Spaces. So bye for now, and see you in the net.